Alrighty, what is up, guys? Episode 4 of the podcast here, and we have the card father himself, Rob Veras, founder of Burbank Sports Cards. First off, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Dude, thanks for having me. I mean, I've been watching your stuff. It's amazing. Good job, kid.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we started this up just a couple weeks ago, and I actually brought Ryan on for that first episode, and I was like, damn, when am I going to get Rob on? When am I going to get Rob on? And we finally made it happen, so I'm stoked to have you on, and I already know this is going to be a super fun episode.
Damn straight.
I feel like people know Burbank Cards now, right? They see the shop, they see basically the two pieces of property you guys have, but they really don't know like how it all started. So can you kind of take us back to maybe when you got into cards, how you got into cards,
Sure.
and what you were kind of into when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's funny because my first experience buying cards was the ice cream man. I mean, we're talking like 1974. I lived in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I was a big coin and stamp collector. My grandfather had gotten me into it, and baseball cards was basically a summertime pursuit, and the ice cream man would come around. Didn't really have any like liquor stores or 7-Elevens close to us, and maybe my mom would randomly buy me a pack here and there at a retail store, but mostly it was all about the ice cream man. And the funny thing is we moved out here in 77 and my collection wasn't deemed essential for the move. And basically it was sold as a lot at a garage sale for like nothing. So that was a sad day.
That's a painful day.
It was a painful day.
How old were you then?
10.
Okay, so you're pretty young still.
I was pretty young still, and I've been kind of making up for that ever since.
Gotcha.
I just really overcompensated as far as getting my collection back. But moved out here and discovered a coin shop that was called Donald S. Osborne Coins and Stamps. It was in Burbank, actually on Magnolia Boulevard, maybe a mile and a half from our current location, and it was kind of my hangout. I loved coins and stamps. And basically my first job was delivering flyers. That was my origin story. That was my first job, period.
And how old were you then?
I was 12.
Okay, so you're 12 delivering papers, basically.
Basically, he'd give me like 1,000 or 2,000 papers, and they had to be folded a certain way, like the night before. And then it was basically a penny a car, 2 cents a house.
That's crazy.
That is my origin story. That's kind of how it started. And so, of course, I try to find the biggest parking lots and try to find like the biggest apartment complexes. And, it wasn't a lot of cash, but to a 12-year-old that my allowance was like $2 or $3 a week, it was nice.
Yeah.
And had my bike and would cruise around Burbank. And the owner liked me and asked if I'd like to work behind the counter. And I had to ask my parents. Again, I was really young. This was like 1979. And they said, that's cool. And so during the summer, I worked 40 hours a week at $1.50 an hour.
That's crazy.
So it was like $60 a week. Again, I was making like $2 a week allowance. So it was a lot of money back then and to a young kid. And then as time went by, I was doing all kinds of things. I was buying gold and silver deals, really knew the coins, knew the stamp. And then like the big day was when I realized that there was price guides for baseball cards, because I knew about the Red Book, which was the price guide for coins. And then there was a stamp price guide as well. All of a sudden, this little paper pamphlet that had prices. I'm like, really? And so I'm like, oh my God, because I'd been collecting cards again. And the cool thing was the owner let me sell the cards in the store.
Really?
So I would get them in pages, put a sticker on the page for the price, nickel, dime, quarter, whatever it had to be. And they would sell it when I was in school. They'd take 20%. And then I'd be in there working for them and selling cards on the weekends.
But before that, they weren't doing any cards at all, right?
No cards.
Gotcha.
So I brought cards to
Gotcha.
them. And this was basically 1981. And I had just started high school, I believe. And it grew and grew. And eventually the owner, his health was kind of declining. He's like, would you be interested in buying the business? And at that time, I was doing as much business with Rob's Cards and Collectibles, the first name of my business, than they were doing with all the coins and stamps combined with all their stuff. And, I asked my family, and my family helped me out. It was a lot of money.
How old were you at that time?
22.
So
I was your age.
yeah. So did you go to school or anything like that, or like did you just finish high school and went right into the business?
No, that wouldn't have flown with my mother. I did go to Glendale College for 2 years.
Got you.
Didn't really. I was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And going to school, and all I'd ever done, I had this education in retail going back to being 12
Yeah.
in a collectibles business that you couldn't get that education in
Yeah.
school. And I was good at it.
Yeah.
And my parents, with their blessing, I dropped out of school and then started this business in 1989, full blown. And it's been a crazy ride, but I've owned it for 33 years, Sasha.
Where was so when you when you bought out that shop, where was like that first shop location? Was it in Burbank somewhere?
Yeah, dude, it was on Magnolia, kind of like between Hollywood Way and Buena Vista.
Okay.
Literally maybe a mile and a half max from my current location.
Yeah.
And that was our first store. It was about 1,800 square feet. And of course, we had coins, we had stamps, we had comics, we had gold, silver, jewelry, foreign stamps, foreign coins. The old owner was kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So if you were really serious about coins or currency, whatever he did, wasn't the place. And my passion was really at that point sports cards, which was mostly baseball, and then coins, U.S. coins. To this day, I still love reading about coins. And so those are the two things, wholesaled everything else out and made that my focus. And for maybe 5 years, we had coins in the store as I owned the place. But the problem was nobody else knew the U.S. coins in the store. I was the only one. So my employees, they all knew cards. And so store traffic for coins got less and less. And I basically got rid of the coins and just became a baseball card shop, then renamed the store Burbank Sports Cards. Because it was basically Burbank coins and collectibles.
Yeah.
Then we just threw Burbank Sports Cards, and it's that name to this day.
Talk to me about what happened with basically the internet coming to play, because it seems like, and when I talked to you, you took full advantage of it when it came about, and like how you brought into cards in your business. So like you're doing coins, and you kind of leave coins, and you're focusing on cards. Your employees are all card guys. Like what happens then? Like where did like that internet like come into play, and you like put your business, basically shifted a lot of your business to the internet?
I'll take it a step or two back.
Take me back.
Technology is what we're talking about here. And technology was very limited when I first bought the store. And it was basically people calling on the phone. There was no internet, still wasn't even fax machines. And to market your right now, it's free. It's app or everything's free right now. But back then it was expensive to advertise. You couldn't on TV. It was way too expensive. You would basically get these little small ads in the yellow pages, or you'd have these little small tiny ads in the sports pages.
Yeah.
I was spending more money on yellow page advertising than I was on my rent. We were spending $1,200 a month on yellow page advertising.
That's insane.
Because that's where people went. There was no Google search. The Google search was basically going to the baseball card section in the yellow pages. And the bigger your ad, the better chance they're going to find you.
Yeah.
But we were like way beyond just Burbank and Glendale. We wanted to be Long Beach, Pomona, Santa Clarita, so we could drive traffic from further away.
Yeah.
So the internet really helped with that big time. And basically it was about 1997 that we had somebody from ESPN walk in the store, and he's looking around. Our store was, you could probably imagine, incredibly organized. I mean, basically Dewey Decimal had nothing on me. The color coding, the number order, all of that. And the story I like to tell is my mother, when she was around, she worked for us. And she was kind of the adult in the room, basically. We're just a bunch of kids. And no matter how old you are, you're still, a kid to your parents and whatever. So we had to be organized, because people, if you want to know if we had a card, we didn't have a website. We didn't have a mail order catalog. People would call.
Yeah.
Do you have this card? And my mom wanted to be able to find the cards when somebody called. And so the one I remember for some reason was somebody was looking for a 97 Pacific fireworks insert number 6. Just this random insert that was current at that time. And she would be able to go to the binder where the 97 inserts were. Alphabetically, she goes to Pacific. Alphabetically, she went to Fireworks within Pacific. She saw the card. It was $4. She relayed the information to the caller. That was powerful. At that time, nobody had that kind of level of organization. Plus, our inventory was insane as well. And this guy from ESPN comes in, and he's looking at the place and the organization, and he said something to me that was really incredible. At the time, he said, "You have a walk-in database. People can walk in here and they can pull a box. It's in number order. They can pull a box of parallels. They're $2 each unless priced otherwise." And we had this amazing organization. And again, back before the internet, our biggest customer was named Lawrence. I mean, big customer. And he had a want list the size of the Yellow Pages, just freaking huge. And he would come in our store and be able to find all the cards he wanted. And he would pay a great premium because his time was worth money.
Yeah.
And he was looking for 96 action-packed artist proofs. And he had a list. He was looking for these 16 cards. We had 10 of them. They were as good as sold. Whatever we had organized and he needed it, it was as good as sold. And I'd see him at the card shows. I'd see him at the National with his big-ass list. And he's just going through random cards. And he's, maybe once in a while he's finding a card he needs. But that was the level of organization elsewhere. So all of a sudden now the internet comes into play. And it was basically informational for us at first. There was no way to list all of our cards onto the site without just creating spreadsheets and having to type in the nomenclature. And you couldn't even do scans at the time. It would have been a nightmare. And it was just informational more than anything else. And then the big call came in, and it was from Mark Harwell. And at the time, he was the vice president at Beckett. And he was kind of like my big brother. Rest in peace, Mark. God bless you. I don't know where I'd be without you. And of course, Jim. And he said, "I have this idea. How would you like to have access to Beckett's database with the nomenclature and the pricing? And you be able to basically put in the quantity that you have, pick a percentage of our prices that you want, push a button, and send it off to Beckett.com, where people would be able to find you on our website, which at the time was one of the most heavily trafficked sites in the category." And I'm like, oh my God, that is literally the most amazing thing I've ever heard. Now we can put this whole building onto the internet. And that just changed it all. And I'm like, the thing was with us is we had this massive competitive advantage. Why? Because we had a physical database already in place. Our inventory wasn't just 5,000 count boxes stacked up or just key cards in the showcases and everything else not even accessible. We had everything in order. So all we're doing is we're pulling up 1986 Fleer baseball. We have them in all in number order, 6 of this, 8 of that, 12 of that, quarter as the base price at the time. And we're at 80% of the price guide. Literally, all you had to do is click 80 and just boom, it was done. It was all 660 cards. We had 4,000 total cards in a matter of, I don't know, half hour. All of those cards were on Beckett. This was unheard of back then.
So would you ship it to Beckett, or would you still have it?
We'd ship from our place.
Got you.
So we're using their website and their traffic. They're ordering on our website, and we're pulling and shipping from there.
Got you.
And we just dominated. And this was like around 1999. And our business just kept growing exponentially. Retail, it was like retail was here and online was there. All of a sudden, it's going like this. And we're in this store at 3001 Magnolia, which we'd moved into in 1995. It was a beautiful showroom. It was big, but the back wasn't that big. All of a sudden, we got 4 buildings, Sasha. And we're having to pull from 4 different places.
So at that time, you had 4 different buildings?
4 different buildings that we had cards in. This was the building before the one the one with the big warehouse. Yeah. Beautiful showroom, but our business was just totally trending online.
So basically, at that time, your business is focused on retail, like somebody coming to the shop, and now you're saying like, oh shit, like our online business is absolutely
it's out of control. And this was even before we had stuff on eBay.
Okay,
and so we literally at times had to go to 4 different buildings to fulfill an order. you know, we had a couple doors down, we had two, and we had one on Burbank Boulevard, which was blocks away. And it was just like, we needed to get all of our stuff under one roof because it was a lot. It was just, so we're looking and we need a massive warehouse. And we found a place, the Burbank store that you're familiar with, but we had to shrink the showroom, it's 2007. And we're like, okay, we'll shrink the showroom because we want to get everything under one roof.
Yeah.
And
how many years of like doing the 4 buildings thing was that like?
It was basically from around 2001 to 2007.
Wow.
It was years. And, you know, it was the thought of moving into a building that size, because it was 7,500 square feet. That's no joke. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we put it off, and eventually got to a point where like, we have to do this if we want to keep
scaling the business.
Scaling the business. And now we have eBay involved too. We'll talk about eBay in a little bit. But just the earlier days of taking a shop that's organized for your retail customers and then being able to replicate that online where you're organized for your virtual customers global. So we were ready for it, but you know, it's just grinding every day for 33 years.
Well, I think people don't understand like that, like especially when a person comes into the shop now, like they don't see like what you're telling me now, all those little steps that basically got to where you're at now. I mean, I didn't know you had 4 different locations where you had to pull cards from. I mean, that doesn't sound like much fun. You know what I mean?
No, it sucked, but it was a necessity. And, you know, it was, I mean, we just didn't have a choice, and we just kept putting shelving into different buildings. And it was just, you know, we were buying so much stuff over the counter, and it was just every day more stuff's coming in, more stuff's getting processed. And it just keep adding a 5,000 count box, keep adding a 5,000 count box. And all of a sudden you're out of shelf.
And then you see the warehouse now and you're like somebody walks in, they're like,
oh yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's just holy shit. Those are the words. They cross the threshold from the retail store to the warehouse, and their head starts spinning like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. They're like, this just doesn't exist. Basically, it's an Amazon fulfillment center is what it is.
Yeah. And it's built for, you know, the structure of your business, right? Where literally, you know, you can hire somebody tomorrow and train them basically, I don't know, like probably in one day, right?
Oh, dude, like 20 minutes. It doesn't, dude. If you know your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, and your colors, you can find cards in my warehouse.
That's solid.
Now, we've had guys that have struggled with those 3 things. Maybe they knew 2 things and they don't last long. But the way, basically, it's still built around my mother.
Yeah.
It's still built. Mom could go back there and find a card.
Yeah.
And you need, if you get an order, Sasha, for like, let's just say 120 different cards, which we get every single day, and they're in 120 different boxes, which happens all the time, you need to be able to efficiently pull those cards and still make a profit.
Yeah.
If you're not organized and you have 3 boxes where they're stacked and that card is on the bottom and you need to pull these boxes off to get to that box, and you're not totally organized in that box, and you're selling cards for whether it's 99 cents on eBay, my minimum price is 60 cents on our Beckett Marketplace store. Now you're looking at pulling 120 cards for $70, and you're including shipping, and you're paying a fee to Beckett. So now you need to be ultra organized, and people are like, 60 cents. You're asking 60 cents? That's a 10-cent card. I'm like, cool. You're just not going to shop us because we're not going to go to 120 different places to pull your order at 10 cents a card for $12 and pay.
They don't see the cost that comes into, you have a warehouse, you have employees, it takes the time to process all that stuff.
Dude,
there's a premium for that.
This is what I like to tell people, Sasha. So you sell me a triple shoe of random shit, right? It comes to me. Now, someone else across the country is going to get that envelope and get that card when they place the order, correct?
Yep.
There's 13 steps that are involved in this, and you can't eliminate any of them. Cards come in. What do you got to do first? You got to break it by sport. What do you got to do then? You got to break it by year. Next, you got to break it by brand. You got to break it by subset. So that's 4. You can't eliminate any of those, right?
Yeah.
You got to put each subset in a number order. That's 5. You got to put the quantity in the database. That's 6. You got to scan the card. That's 7. You have to map the front image to the database. That's 8. You got to map the back image. That's 9. You got to price the card. That's 10. Can you eliminate any of those steps so far? The order comes in. You got to pull the card. That's 11. You got to ship the card. That's 12. And potentially there could be customer service on the back end as well.
Yeah.
13 steps. You can't eliminate any of them. So it's very laborious. And now, as minimum wages are escalating rapidly, you really need to be hyper efficient in your systems, because your costs were $9 an hour just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it got fast tracked in a hurry up to 15. So, and that's fine. That's dandy. But for a lot of people, it's a real struggle to be able to pull orders from a warehouse efficiently and pay people that much money to sell cards that are under $1.
How do you go about hiring your employees? Is there a specific trait you look for? Are you looking for sports card people, or are you just looking for somebody that can just do the job? How do you go about that?
There's 3 things. First one's trust, second one's trust, and the third one's trust. I can teach you anything that has to do with cards. I have to get a good vibe from you. You know where I go for employees first and foremost? I go to Facebook, and I'll put a message out there on my Facebook looking for a couple of young folks to come to work for us in the warehouse, whether it's a shipping job, a scanning job, a pulling orders job, whatever it happens to be, because those folks are already halfway vetted.
Yeah.
It's a friend, it's their kid, it's a friend of a friend, and they probably wouldn't refer them to me if they thought that they were a bad kid.
Yeah.
So that's the first place you go. And if that doesn't work, and then you go to Indeed and start taking interviews. And, people come in the shop looking for work. They're looking for work in the showroom where it's kind of the hustle, the bustle, the action. But for the most part, I need people pulling orders, which isn't nearly as sexy.
Yeah.
But that is the bulk of our labor that takes place there.
Do you basically how does, because you basically, most of the people you hire, you bring them to the showroom, but do you have employees, or is there a way for them to kind of work their way up, maybe go to the showroom eventually? How do you hire specifically just for somebody in the showroom? How does that work?
It's really tricky. I don't do any of the hiring personally.
Gotcha.
We've got a couple guys, George and Eddie. I got to mention these guys first of all.
Yeah.
So Eddie, who's now 35 with twins and a third on the way. No, had the third. Has been with me since he's 15.
Wow.
The guy's been with me 18 years. And his brother George, who is 2 years younger. He started at 15 as well.
Wow.
And there's no argument. It's just, he's the best employee I've ever had. And he's literally, you could try to trade me anybody in the industry. No, just not going to happen. This guy is the very best at every aspect of what we do. And the younger brother, Jason, started when he was 15. I believe he's about 24 now. And he's with me doing a lot of the shipping, and their mother sorts cards from home.
You got a whole family.
Oh yeah, the whole crew. And I don't know what I would do without that family. But it's funny because when I hired George, I thought he was mute. I hired 3 kids at the same time. He didn't say a peep, nothing. The other 2 kids, personalities, all that, but they were gone within weeks.
Yeah.
And it was the silent guy, George, that I trust the kid with everything. I trust him with the keys. I trust him with, they're like my own kids.
Yeah.
So it's Eddie runs eBay, and you want to talk about a job. You deal with the emails that we get with eBay, and we got the 2.4 million different listings there, and people always have questions. It's mind blowing how he deals with that. And, it's just, he runs the eBay department. George basically runs everything that has to do with BurbankCards.com and kind of overseeing the staff at the warehouse. And I don't know what I'd do without that family. It would suck because I trust them all like family.
Yep.
And, when you have those kind of people built into your business, it makes things a lot easier. Plus having, of course, my father and my son really helps as well.
Well, and that's what I was I was talking with Ryan when he came on. I was we're basically talking about having a family business and the benefits that come with that, and trust is one of the biggest things, right?
It's the only thing.
Right.
It really is the only thing.
And like when you do like partnerships in business and stuff like that, like how do you know if you can trust the person, right? And there's always conflict with money and stuff like that. So, being able to, keep the business within, a few trusted people in the family, I think is really, really dope. Because also, I mean, working with families hard in the aspect of you see your family every single day and you'll get in fights and
Oh
you know what I mean,
God.
right? People don't see that end, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, just seeing you guys doing what you're doing at scale every single day of the week is dope to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's we wouldn't be where we're at without my father, Steve. Period. End of discussion.
He's still working in the shop
He's
every day.
80. He'll run circles around every single one of you. If you've met my dad, he is constant motion.
Yeah.
And he's just, you would swear he's in his 60s.
Yeah.
He's just got so much energy. He's so sharp. And, we have our own lanes basically. And whenever we veer into other lanes is when things can kind of go sideways.
Yeah.
My dad built every business, every building we've been in has his stamp all over the building. Very much an infrastructure guy, tech guy, just has had businesses with over 100 different people working for him. And he came on board. My mother got ill in the early 90s, and he owned his own construction company, which was a big company. And he basically moved on from that to come to work for us to be closer with my mother. And just 4 hours a day. He's like, I'm going to come in for 4 hours a day. My dad doesn't know what 4 hours is. I'm just going to help you build shelves, do different things. All of a sudden, he's working every hour that I'm working and then some. He just loves it. He retired.
This was in the 90s?
This was in the 94. He started working there. And it was great. And he retired in 2017. And he had trained Ryan to take over his role because my dad was the businessman. And I'm not, you might think I'm the businessman, but I'm more of the product guy. I'm more of the marketing, kind of the face of things. And my dad was always the nuts and bolts. And so school wasn't for Ryan either. And so he came on board to learn the business, but he wanted to learn it from my dad because that was the real business education. And he soaks things up like a sponge, whether it was with me meeting with eBay or meeting with Amazon, whoever else I was meeting with, real quiet, but he absorbed everything. And my dad taught him the business of the business. And now when you deal with Ryan, he's like the epicenter. He's, the tip of the spear when it comes to the ultra modern market, but he also is the one that takes care of things like taxes and payroll and making sure that the different aspects of the business that aren't sexy, that are behind the scenes, get done as well, because that's not my forte.
So Ryan's basically doing I feel like Ryan actually got the best of both worlds. He got to go with you to the nationals and those meetings and just kind of soak it all up, but then also with your grandpa learning the backbone of the business.
Yes.
Right. So now you see him in the shop and it seems like he's doing like 20 things at once too, right?
Dude.
It's crazy.
Everybody wants a piece of that kid. And he's just built this amazing circle of folks that they only want to deal with Ryan. They don't want to go to other shops. They don't want to go to shows. They want to deal with Ryan. And as a father,
that's dope, right?
It's incredibly dope. But you're right. He got the business mind from my dad and he got the product mind from me. And he scaled both things. I ain't going to lie. He does things. I can't figure out what the hell he's doing. The browsers are just flying and he's got different things and auction lookups and just coming up with the prices for cards. People come in, they're like, what do you pay for this? I'm like, well, it's just a PSA 10 base card. I can deal with that. But people bring us crazy sick shit all day long. And I have no idea how to price it. I look on eBay, there's no comps. And I'm like, I'm giving it to Ryan. And, a minute later, I'm paying $1,200 on it. I'm like, I don't even know where that number came from. I'm like, did you pull it out of your ass? Is that a real number? I have no clue.
Yeah.
And
is it weird though? Like, because, when you started this business, you're basically retail and then you go into online and you start crushing it there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're kind of like building this business up. And then it's like, now you're seeing kind of Ryan do it, right? Is
Yeah.
that like kind of weird to see? Like, how is that like feeling? And like,
It
uh,
is weird. It is, because if you would have told me 20 years, Ryan's 26. If you
yeah.
would have told me 20 years ago, Ryan would be a part of my business, I would say, that's awesome. That's a dream, that you follow in the
Did you think
footsteps.
he would though? Because like when I was talking to him, he wasn't really into cards like that when he was a kid. And I know he loved video games. He played a bunch of video games. He was going to school.
Right.
Like if I had to put money on it, I would have said no. He probably won't go into the
No,
business.
I didn't think so at all. And again, you talk to the card mother, Sally, my wife, that's not the dream of a parent, especially the wife, the mom, to sit there and go, I want my kid to be a baseball card dealer. Because 20 years ago, it wasn't like what it is
Yeah.
today. It was kind of the internet was, there was no breaking. There was, everything was just getting started. And I really thought this would be something that would just be mine. The family, would do their other things. My daughter, Samantha, had zero interest in this.
Yeah.
I think she's been in the new place like twice, but, to see Ryan start to take hold of it, but I never dreamed, because I'm pretty smart with cards. I've done a few things in this business. And so for my kid to come on board and not just work for me, but take over for me. I mean, really, you might think my dad's the boss, just because he's my dad and stuff. You might think I'm the boss because I've run it forever and I'm kind of the focal point.
Yeah.
Ryan's the boss. Ryan's where the big decisions get made.
Yeah.
And every once in a while he'll say, Grandpa, you do what you think's best, or Dad, he knows the lanes we're a little better at, but for the most part, it's him. And the funny thing when he came on board was he was a little kid when we had the first. He wasn't around for the first store. He was born right when we moved into the second store. And that second store had like 28 showcases. It was an amazing retail space. Again, had a small back room. And Ryan comes on. My dad had retired. And he's like, Dad, I want to build this place like the other shop for retail. And of course, we're doing online and retail. That's what we were doing at that point. And I'm like, Ryan, I'm cool. I would love to do that, but I can't do it myself. All my energy is online. I mean, the amount of packages we're shipping a day and just the infrastructure. And slowly but surely, we started to rebuild it. And all of a sudden, we'll get to COVID. That's gonna be a whole separate subject, of course. But you started seeing the changes and the responsibilities that he was taking on and the hours that he was starting to work. Because when he first started, he was working, let's just say, 10:30 to 5. He's not a morning guy. So he would seriously not a morning guy. So he wouldn't get in until after we had opened, because we used to open at 10. And he's like 5:30, he's taken off. That's not the case now. He knows what it takes to run at scale. And now he's putting in the serious hours. And even when you don't see him there, trust me, he's there doing things. So as a father, it's really cool. Again, maybe I'm biased, but I really think that office of his is really the epicenter of what's going on in the entire industry. I don't know if there's another place on earth in this business where so much is getting done within four walls on a daily basis. And he's the mind that really drives it, and super proud.
Yeah, it's dope to see. And I agree with you. I don't think for the amount of buying and selling and trading and just stuff that goes down in those four walls, it's absolutely nuts. I want to bring it back a little bit because you mentioned eBay a couple times, and you mentioned you're kind of doing Beckon Marketplace and pounding kind of that business over there. But where did eBay come into play, and how important did that become for the business?
You look back and, we started selling cards in the late 90s sporadically on eBay. It really wasn't until 2003, 2004 that we started doing a lot more of it. And we were in the same boat as everybody, just we couldn't get a hold of anybody there. It was kind of a frustrating, trying experience. And we bought a collection. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. We called it the Hawaii collection. And again, it was a customer named Lawrence that would come in and spend a lot of money. And there was a horrible 3-day stretch in my life, basically, where my mother had passed away. So I'm at her service, and someone called the shop while I was gone. And so I get back and I get a message that, what was her name? Patty Ching had called. And this wasn't Lawrence Ching. I'm like, oh no. And so she tells me that Lawrence had passed away within 2 days of my mother, and we were super close.
Yeah.
And so we're consoling each other and all that. And I'm like, well, when's the service? And she's like, oh, wait, you got way too much. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm coming to the service. He was like an uncle to me. And I go out there and I'm talking to Patty and Kathy, and they're like, you need to help us. You need to come out because we've got 7 storage units and half of a 4,000-foot house of pure cardboard. And I'm like, I don't doubt it, because I know what he would spend with us. He was a one-man economy in the industry. He had sold a bank, had money, loved cards, older Asian man, in his 60s, not the stereotypical collector from back then. And real quiet. He'd sit at tables and buy up the biggest cards. And so they come to me, would you be interested in coming out and just taking a look at it? Give us, some ideas. And so flew out there, and I spent 5 or 6 days there, and my mind was just blown. I'd never seen anything like this. And precious metal gems, 72 Topps football sets, 12 of them, 73, 12 of them, 93 finest refractors, going back to tobacco, just staggering, 48 boom. There's like 12 86 basketball sets. And I'm going through it, and I tell them, this is approximately what it's worth. You can't dig into everything. You just do your best to approximate. And it was a big number. And so they were happy with it and everything. I go back, and like 6 months later, they call back and they're like, would you be interested in buying it at that number? And I'm like, never really thought about that, because it's such a big number. It's, more than my house. It's just a big number. And so I'm like, yeah, I think so. Let me get back to you. And so talked with my dad, and, we put something together and ended up buying it. But the crazy thing, Sasha, it cost me 30 grand just to get it back. Can you imagine going to buy a deal and spending 30 grand just to get it back?
Did you know once, did you know beforehand?
No, I had no clue. I mean, it's on an island in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not driving it back. And so basically they would bring storage containers to the home. The home was up in the hills, steep driveway, hired a moving company, 8 big Samoan guys. So I brought George with me. George was 17 at the time. And I brought him for 2 reasons. A, to keep an eye on things, and B, to be able to bring back 1 duffel bag, because we wanted the primo stuff in our hands, not in a shipping container. So I'm thinking, okay, it'll fit in a storage container. They'll ship it back, and it's what it is. So ends up that the weight was so extreme that they couldn't pile it higher than, maybe halfway to the top. Ended up being 3 40-foot storage containers.
Insane.
Is that insane?
That's insane.
Yeah. And getting it back, and then you're finding out about insurance costs, and then you're thinking worst case scenarios. What if a container falls off? And all of a sudden we added the whole thing up, and it was right around 30 grand just to get it back. And then the issue is, where do you put it all?
Yeah.
And, we luckily had just moved into the store that you were familiar with. And if you're familiar with the warehouse, there's 2 bays. There's one in the back and one in the front. And it was so expensive when we moved into that place to shelve it all. We had only shelved out the front. We only needed the front bay at the time. So we had the back bay that wasn't shelved. And thank God, I don't know where it all would have gone. They would bring a container. We would get some people from like Home Depot, some laborers, because it was a lot of work getting the stuff out into the building. And it was hot in the container too, I remember. And it was just, man. And then all of a sudden it's in the building. Where do you even start? And so that really built our business. And the funny thing is, at the time, nobody was happy with Burbank, because the prices we were asking for the cards was high, because we knew they didn't exist. We're talking about Crusades, precious metal gems, rubies, skybox autographics, just all the biggest cards of the day. And we might have been 3 times value on that stuff at the time. and people were like tripping. And I'm like, we basically reset the market for the stuff. We knew the scarcities, and people that bought the stuff back then are now just, thanking me.
Oh yeah.
But at the
They
time,
they made a big come up on
I
that
mean, we
stuff.
had EX Essential credentials, like missing 4 or 5 cards. I
There's
mean,
PMGs in there too,
there was,
right?
oh, dude, there was
my God.
everything. I just, I should have kept it. But, at the time, we were like trying to recoup cash
Yeah.
because it was such a massive outlay. But getting back to eBay, that was kind of like where we started really scaling up on eBay.
Because you bought this insane collection.
We bought
You're
this.
like, where do you move it?
Where do
right?
you move it? And so that was that. But the biggest problem with eBay was you need images. And that is the biggest pain point in everything. So we had 10, 20 million cards on eBay, over 1 million different listings at the time. Then eBay makes images mandatory. You can't have anything on eBay without images. And this was
Yeah.
like maybe 8 to 10 years ago this happened. And you know what scanning technology was like. Well, you might not. Back then it was flatbed, zzz, turn it over, zzz, then you're like cropping the card. And that's how you got cards
Yeah.
online at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. I'm like, holy
You
shit.
had to do that for every single card.
So we're like, that's not an option. That's going to take forever.
Yeah.
So this was what changed everything for us. So one night, just watching an infomercial popped up, and they're scanning papers and they're scanning documents really quickly through this machine. They're scanning IDs. They're scanning all different kinds of sizes. And I'm like, wait a second, would that work for cards? So I'm doing some research and found this machine. This is like 2013. It was a Fujitsu 6130Z scanner. And I'm looking at it, and it's saying it could do 40 cards a minute, front, back, auto crop. I'm like, there's no way in hell. There is no way. So I'm at the National, ordered one. It comes in. George gets it. He's like, dude, this is like, cards are going through, the images are popping on the screen. I'm like, oh my God, this is a godsend technology. The scanner is like this little tiny thing, but it's $1,000. And I'm like, that's a lot of money for a scanner. But you think about the hours saved, it's a bargain.
Yeah.
So what do? It's summertime. I buy 9 of these machines. And I hire a lot of Ryan's friends that were in high school baseball team. I'm hiring all these people. I'm hiring people to take home 5,000 count boxes and giving them the scanners and telling them to go to town. And slowly but surely, we started at point A, and all of a sudden, over the course of the next 14 months or so, we had basically digitized the inventory where we could have all of those cards on eBay. And the only things that weren't scanned were new arrivals. As we were upgrading products, we would know, okay, there's 42 of these cards now that need scans. We're going to catch up with that. But the beauty is once you have the scan, it's perpetuity. It's, now you have that 89 Peachy number 12 baseball card scanned once. Every time we add one, we've already got the image. So it was key, and it's key to this very day to have images. Like 2022 WWE Prism comes in. Bang. It's like, get that stuff sorted, get that stuff scanned, get it online. And again, those machines to this day really work for us. But sticking with the scanning, can I do that for a minute?
100%.
Dude, I'm just rolling. I'm hoping you guys are cool with the card father just going.
I love talking about scanning.
Yeah. Scanning's so much fun. So I get a phone call from Fujitsu, and this gentleman is like, I want to send you our new top of the line scanner for free. I'm like, really? So he sends it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is an upgrade over the one that we had. And it's just, but the quality's amazing. And so he sends it, and then we're like, do you have one that can do this? And he said, yes, let me send you that for free. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is a massive company. Why do they have an interest in me?
Yeah.
Ends up, they see that our business was solved by their company. Their devices were able to take the impossible and make it a reality.
Yeah.
Then they come back to me. We want to do a photo shoot in your store. We want to talk about how you've used our products, your history, and kind of, how you do things today with our technology. They were in our store for 11 hours, and they came back the next day to do more B-roll. And it's going to be something that's going to go across all their platforms
Yeah.
because, they're really big in the medical industry because there's so much data, there's so much paperwork. But we're kind of a unique test case because before they didn't even know what their machines were doing in our category. And I think we'll have them at the Burbank show too, showing
Oh,
off some of
dope.
their technology. So, but yeah, once we got the scanning down, all of a sudden everything opened up on eBay and our business just went berserk. And now we're having to hire more people because it was hard for people to get images onto eBay.
Yeah.
What was the average inventory? 500 cards on eBay, 50 cards, whatever. Now we got 1 million different cards, 1.5 million. But the biggest problem besides the images, paying insertion fees. And you don't think you know what? I got 50 cards, they're a nickel each. I pay $250 a month. Maybe a guy has 1,000 and it's costing them, $50 a month, whatever it happens to be. But now you run the numbers and you scale up to 1 million different cards. That's $50,000 a month in insertion fees before final value fees.
Wait, so they would charge you just to have the card up on eBay?
Yeah, there was an insertion fee just to have the card up. And again, it was 3 cents, 5 cents, whatever. Not a big deal until you start scaling the numbers. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we're paying $25,000, $50,000 a month to have all this inventory on eBay that really cut into our margins. So I'm chasing eBay everywhere, sitting down with them at the National, sitting down with them at industry events going, look, can we do something about this? My inventory is unique on your platform. We're filling in all these holes. Everybody's selling more expensive stuff. We got all the low end stuff, the long tail inventory, they would call it. Finally, I find a guy that's like, I want to come to your store and check out what you're talking about. So his name was Austin, and he ran sports collectibles for eBay, and he brought his boss, and she ran all of collectibles, and he reported to her, and they came down, and they're like, why don't you have everything on our platform? I'm like, it's just too expensive with your insertion fees. And she's like, well, what if we got rid of the insertion fees? I'm like, oh my God, that would change everything. Yeah. And that would save me a ton of money. So it ends up that I end up going to eBay and meeting with them. Bill Sutherland from Beckett was there because their software powered our inventory. And even the owner of Beckett came because I wanted to build something around these free insertions. Well, we got free insertions, which was huge, but I wanted to build a business around it. And I'm working with Beckett, and I'm like, let's do something called Beckett Business Solutions, where we can have everybody using your software that's pushing to eBay be able to get all of these listings up for a fraction of the price and use this massive image database that we built. And I was the VP of e-commerce for Beckett for a while.
Holy shit.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know it. Didn't work exactly as planned, but it was an amazing experience. And it was something, if it still existed today, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because of the infrastructure that we built with images and relationships with eBay and all that. But we still have that relationship to this day. But with eBay, they come at me constantly. I spoke at the eBay Open on behalf of the entire sports memorabilia industry. I was up on stage speaking on that. And they come at me with projects. We've had them in the store shooting commercials for eBay.
I saw the holiday one.
The holiday one was crazy.
Yeah, that was dope.
Only 2 people on the entire eBay platform got that.
That is dope.
Yeah, so we got that. I mean, we're doing something with them right now. We just did their authentication guarantee program. They did a spot. We provided all the cards. I helped with the navigation of what they were doing. Did that. We're working on something right now for the vault. We're actually just got off doing another email with them. We're putting together the cards and kind of putting them in the right direction. You'll see marketing on eBay for the vault. We're involved in that as well. They hit us with everything that we're kind of their go-to now. And that's super exciting for a company I couldn't even get a hold of, 10 years ago. Now I can go to whoever, and it's hopefully we think we've earned it, So, but the funny thing is, like, I'd have all these meetings over the years with them, and Ryan would be sitting in. And I kind of stopped going to industry events for a while. The business was just getting out of control busy. And I had kind of grown disillusioned with a lot of meetings that never went anywhere, and a lot of bad actors, in my opinion, in the industry that weren't helpful to hobby shops. And I'm like, I'm just not going to go. I'll just send Ryan. And now he's taking the meetings with eBay. He's taking the meetings with Fanatics. And his last trip, he had meetings with 2 different billion-dollar companies, as well as meeting with the president of Beckett. And I'm like, dude, you go out there, you represent. I want you to become the face of this business. And to be honest with you, I'd rather you talk to him now than myself. So it's really cool that I've kind of passed that along to him, where now he's meeting with the people that run the category for eBay and helping them do what they're doing, as well as, having them help us as well.
When you talk about your business, it's so clear to see like how like structured and like built up, and like everything's very like clean and organized, and like that just takes years and years to build. Now you're seeing like a lot of hobby shops come about, right? Shops are
Sure.
opening up.
Good.
At the same time, some are closing too, which is crazy, because you think about the industry's blown up so much.
Right.
How are they not, profiting, right?
Right.
How do you, number one, how do you feel about new shops opening up? And number two, like, is it weird for you to see like some shops close? Like,
No, not at all. You'll never work harder than working for yourself. And I did a video actually on competition, I think yesterday morning. I just, me, I ramble in the mornings on IG. And the more shops, the better. Why do I say that? As a business owner, you can't be afraid of the competition. That's A. But B, most importantly, the more billboards for this industry, the more places you drive by and see sports cards for sale, it's better for everyone. It grows the pie, and a bigger pie, bigger slice.
Yeah.
And, it's back in the late 80s, early 90s, they were on every corner seemingly. And then people realized it's work. I'm in there 3 hours before we open.
Yeah.
I'm in there around 8 a.m.
Yeah.
because there's so much work to be done. And I think young people that are jumping in right now see a lot of what I call the low-hanging fruit. The breaks. You need an iPhone and not much else to do breaks. The slab culture, the flipping. It's not rocket science, nothing personal. But it doesn't take a lot of infrastructure, employees, things of that nature. And then they see the wax product, being able to buy it, flip it at the points, whatever. But there's so much more to running a sports card shop. It's running a business. And for a lot of these people, it's their first business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's trial and there's error. You make a few too many errors, you're out of business, because there's real expenses and there's real competition out there, because it's not just the other stores. Competition, the manufacturers sell their own cards. Your customers compete against you at shows, and everything in between. How many different places can you buy cards right now?
Crazy amount, especially here in SoCal. Like,
it's limitless.
Yeah.
It's limitless. You're competing against card shows, sometimes multiple card shows a weekend. So you have like 60, 80, 200 different people competing against you on a given weekend, where you think you'd have your most store traffic, correct?
Yep.
You have eBay that has the biggest selection of cards on the planet that's open 24/7. You have, whatnot. You have breakers taking up a tremendous amount of the revenue in this business. A lot of people spend far bigger percentages with breaks than they do in hobby shops.
Yeah.
And you're opening a hobby shop. Like, I was just talking to a great guy. He opened a shop in Westminster. He was in the store and he'd been open 2 months, and we're talking. I'm like, congratulations. That's awesome. You're going to love it, but you're also going to realize how much work it is, because there's no harder boss than yourself.
Yeah.
When everybody else is guaranteed a paycheck and you're not, the grind has to be real. But what he might not realize, and other people thinking about it right now, is you might have an exclusive on this little 20-mile radius right now. But if people see success, they're going to want to open one from you 5 minutes away. And we're not done with shops opening. And it's a dream job. I ain't going to lie. I got no other marketable skills. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, who's coming in to buy? What are those black boxes going to have when people come in to sell? What are those triple shoes going to have? Every day is an adventure. It's like opening a box of chocolates. It's exciting. But by the same token, you need to be able to take advantage of that. Are these shops buying? Are you walking in with your black box, and are those guys buying? I don't know. Are they buying triple shoes of stuff? Do they have access to product at the manufacturer level, at the distributor level? If they don't, they're at a huge competitive disadvantage right out the gate, you know? So it's not easy. You might think it's easy, but until you're on the other side of the counter and put everything into place of what it costs, because the rent is just the starting point of what it costs to open a store. And you need to be there for the hours. When you're there for the hours, you might not be able to do other things that you want to do. You need to hire, you need to delegate. You need to be able to stay after hours to do things for online. I mean, the days can be 11, 12, 15 hours. If I was Ryan's age and I wasn't married, it probably would be 15-hour days with a cot in the back, you know?
Is it, I mean, you've had your shop open for so long, and when we talk about, I mean, we'll talk about Fanatics in a little bit, but when we talk about, distribution of wax and product and stuff like that.
Distribution. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
I had to bring it up. Like, is it, I mean, I guess we can all say that it's not a clean, well-run way of getting product to hobby shops right now, currently.
Right.
Can you take us into your head of like what you think needs to happen? And also, like, if somebody wants to open up a hobby shop today, like, is there a way to get this, how does that work out? Right.
Well, to say it needs to be blown up and reimagined is like a grand understatement. Hobby shops are the tip of the spear. Hobby shops are the most important part of the chain because we are the forward facing with the customer. Customer's first experience a lot of times is in a hobby shop. Hobby shops provide education, community, vibe, staffing, answer all kinds of questions. What kind of supplies? People come in with cards to sell. Card shops are critical in the ecosystem, but they don't seem to get the respect when distribution. There's no such thing as distribution, Sasha. There's no such thing.
How much of your product do you buy, like, secondary market versus you getting allocation?
Oh my God, it's probably 95% of what we do is secondary market.
So you're saying basically 95% of the 95% of the wax you get is secondary.
Oh yeah, almost everything. It's just you get so little from the distributor. Even though we've been around forever, distributors are retailers now. Make no mistake. There's a bloat between the manufacturer and what happens on the store shelves. And I've been told that 80% of the product that's made goes towards the breakers. And I think that's asinine. I think when we moved into our new store, Sasha, I just saw a blank slate. I just saw, just because it happened in the past doesn't mean we need to set it up that way going forward. We're going to reimagine it. We're going to rethink it. And like Josh Luber, he fancies himself the chief vision officer at Fanatics. And that is the perfect role for him. And that's kind of what I've always kind of considered myself, is the chief vision officer. And we kind of blew up the model for card shops. I mean, we are building something that's never existed before. And we're trying to do things in a way that benefit the customer at every single turn. And Josh is on the same page. Basically, whatever happened then was then. Whatever happens going forward goes forward. And they're a straight to retail company. And I love that. And people are like, why do you love that? I'm like, because they're going to grow the pie. They're going to have cards in places. They're going to have cards in a 7-Eleven where you're checking out and you could buy packs of cards. They're going to have cards available at the stadiums. They're going to market during games in ways that we've never seen before. And Josh will tell you, we've built this whole entire industry without any real marketing.
How do you think Fanatics come into play affects hobby shops? And then also, like, what is one aspect that maybe they'll, is it, where is like an area where like you'll see decline because Fanatics coming in as well?
I think if I'm you right now, my thought process is you've spent a lot of money in building this company out. You want to be the everything company. You want to handle it all. They're a $27 billion company, and the owner wants to make it a $100 billion company. How do hobby shops equate into this? And my thought process is, why would they give a hobby shop an allocation if that hobby shop's not doing anything different than Fanatics does? To me personally, if a hobby shop has a value add, those are the ones that should get a lot more product because they're doing things that Fanatics can't or won't want to do. A lot of it is, does a hobby shop provide liquidity? Fanatics is coming in and creating all these products and all this, to all these different types of people, but it's a two-way market. And if there aren't buyers at the hobby shop level, and those buyers are able to sit there and turn it around and get those cards out to people that collect it, what is the value add? What are they doing? Do they only exist because of allocation?
Yeah.
Because if that's the
Well, and I think
answer,
that's where a lot of hobby shops will close, right?
Yeah.
Because they're only relying on allocation.
Yeah.
And you go to their shop and there's no singles.
Yeah.
So when that goes away, does Fanatics be like, all right, these are the hobby shops that we want to focus on building our relationship with?
I don't know what they're going to do, Sasha, but if I was Josh and I was traveling the country as he is, I'd want to look at a shop and go, I want to walk in there. Do they provide an experience that's greater than if I were to buy stuff at Walmart or Target? Or if, Fanatics opens their own kiosks, their own stores, do they do things beyond that? Because those are the ones I want to partner with. And we've built our business not to be reliant on anybody else, and creating a vibe and atmosphere and a culture as well as an infrastructure to service the customer anyway. And if they're creating all these products, they're going to need liquidity centers. They're going to need to see stores out there that are willing to take the time, buy the cards back, give store credit for those cards. And not only that, put them out there for sale in like the fishbowl, where you can come in, somebody sold me a bunch of stuff. Okay, cool. Here's a bunch of really good looking Kobe's that we can get into the section, and people can spend hours in there and doing that. Fanatics doesn't want any part of that, nor should they. But they need those types of stores. So in my opinion, and none of this is fact, Josh was in my store about 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, and we sat down. The first thing he said was, is there another shop in the country that looks like this? And I'm like, to my knowledge, no.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been to hundreds of stores. This is the best one I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, thank you. Really appreciate that. And hopefully that means that a shop like mine and others that are great will be able to sit there and create partnerships, maybe Fanatics authorized shops, maybe because they walk into that store and they're like, this is the brand we want to put forward. These shops are clean, well lit, well managed, and they do more than just push products on people. And I think that's important. Whether that's 100 stores, 10 stores, I have no idea. But there's people that grind hard every single day. And they've been doing this, whether it's for decades or even for 2 years. But they've built something that collectors gravitate towards, that they'll travel from Laguna Niguel to Burbank and fight all that because it's worth making that kind of journey. We got people that are in the store, everybody. Yeah. They're in the store 4 or 5 times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. It's because we provide something that they're not going to get anywhere else. And Fanatics would probably look at a shop like mine and say, you need to get X amount of product. They might still give everybody product, but not the way they were giving it before.
Yeah.
They might look at this and say, you can get a couple boxes of this. You can get 20 cases. I have no idea what it's going to be, but it's like, where's the value add? And maybe there's going to be suggested retail prices. We don't know what they're going to want. Yeah. Maybe they want to get rid of all that bloat. Nobody seems to know that.
I guess the hope is it just becomes more well-rounded than what it is now.
It has to. We can't have boxes that were built to be $200 a box. They were built to be, that's the content, but they hit the shelves at $600 because the distribution, I got to keep putting that in parentheses there. All of a sudden, the restock is higher than what you were charging for the boxes.
Yeah.
And the ROI, the return on investment, might not be there. And if they're going to bring in all these new users, there has to be basketball hobby boxes that you can buy for $100. There just has, you can't look at my shelves and go, $400, whatever it is the cheapest hobby box. That doesn't work. Now I'm going to give you an option for this little tiny blaster box that's $80. That was built to be $20. So it needs to be re-examined. Josh is one of those guys that's the smartest guy in the room. He walks in. This guy's done his homework. And I have every confidence that he's going to build an ecosystem that is going to be built around the consumer, just like every other aspect of Fanatics. So super excited.
Where do you see like the shop that you guys currently have going in the next like couple of years, like with Fanatics coming into play? Like, what do you want to see happen, basically?
I can see us in a bigger location. The business will dictate what we do. We've got 33 showcases in there right now. We built the new arrival showcases built around the fact that people want brand new cards. Ray just bought it. Ryan priced it. They hand it to me. I get the stuff out. People demand that. We got 9 of them now, new arrivals. We didn't have that before, but we did a couple showcases and people were like, this is great. And all of a sudden it dominates our business. Where are we going to be? The customers will tell us where we're going to be and what we're going to do. Nothing's off the table. Yeah. When we built this place, nothing is off the table. Yeah. So wherever the business takes us, I think Fanatics is going to grow the pie exponentially. I have no doubt, actually. Think about breaking. Celebrity breakers, athletes that are breaking, athletes that are talking about breaks on television, breaking at the stadiums, just different things that they can do to drive a shit ton of traffic to our business. So I still think this is early days. And I've got a 26-year-old that adds decades to the life of Burbank Sports Cards. I'm 55.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys are my age in this business that don't have a succession plan. We do. So who knows what the future holds? It's up to you, Ryan. What does the future hold?
Kyle, where we're at on it? 6%. All right, we got to get this through. We got to do the giveaways now.
Giveaways, let's do it.
So we got two things. We got an Ezekiel Elliott Select PSA 10, and we got some. You probably have this at your shop. It's the new Star Wars product.
Sure. Oh, that's the rookie.
Yeah, I think it's
sweet.
The rookie. Yeah,
sweet Zeke.
So we will do the Ezekiel Elliott first. We're gonna pin the item for giveaway, so start filling it up. I wish we go longer. We did have the laptop issue, so we got to run through these quick. We got to have you on another time. I feel like we can talk for another hour and a half.
Oh, dude, I can talk all day.
All right, so we have 32. We have 32 entries.
Yeah.
We probably should. We have 32 entries. 41 now. So we're gonna draw the winner. So basically, on Whatnot, you can do giveaways.
Okay.
And basically, like you can see here, it literally like does it for you.
Okay, cool. It's like a randomizer.
Yeah, literally.
Sweet.
What's up, Doot? That's a dope username, by the way. You won the Ezekiel Elliott. Congrats. And now we're gonna do Star Wars Signatures series, 1 in case autograph per box. We're gonna run that. Here we go.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck. Again, guys, sorry we did have a laptop issue, or else we would have gone longer.
Another time.
We on it. Kyle, you like that one too. I could tell you're like nodding. He doesn't even do cards that much, but he was into it, bro.
Part 2.
Tell the card father that the morning videos are the best.
Thank you. We'll keep doing them then.
All right, we're drawing winner.
Ryan, are you even watching this? I doubt it.
I don't think he is. Chris W. Congrats, you won.
Congrats, Chris. That's awesome.
Binder said, let's do a scroll. Why not? You got to do a scroll on Whatnot, dude. Everybody's saying, great show. That was good. Card father. I really appreciate you making the drive down.
That's a hell. I mean, I don't leave Burbank all that much, but when Sasha T came calling, I'm like, damn it. I'm excited. So, dude, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. You guys appreciate everybody in the live stream for watching. It means a ton. YouTube will be out, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we'll be able to watch all on there. If you're watching on there or listening on there, I appreciate it a ton. We are definitely going to have the card father back just because that was such a fun combo. And I feel like we could literally talk for another 2 hours. But anyways, I appreciate it. Whatever platform you're listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Card father out.